What's up, ZBrushers? Welcome back to Z Fever. My name is Ricky, and today we're going to be having a discussion about Polypaint. So, what we have here today is I'm just going to be focusing on a little flower petal that I kind of put together as part of a larger thing that I've been working on. But I felt like this was a good way to go about doing this demonstration rather than bogging people down with how to paint a human face or various things like that. So let's keep it simple because even a flower petal has its own complications, right? So um, let's start with the basics, right? And I'm going to hop over to this other duplicate that I have, and it's just a clean slate, right? So whenever you are painting inside of ZBrush, there are some things that you need to be aware of, right? Um, Color information and material information is located up here, these categories. And let me change back to the standard UI so you guys are seeing exactly the same thing that I'm seeing. Okay, so up here at the top, you have your normal Z add, Z sub, but then you also have mRGB, RGB, and M. mRGB stands for material and RGB data. RGB is just color data alone, and then M is just the material. So let me run through that real quick because a lot of people get this wrong and run into problems down the line. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to dock my materials over here so we can access them more quickly, right? So by default, right, you get in here and you start making an object. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to have a material applied to it, right? And so whenever it doesn't have a material applied to it, anytime you select a different material like I'm doing right now, it's just going to update the model with that current material. So let's head back over to skin shade. Now, you can turn on and you can turn off your Polypaint by this little paintbrush in the subtool palette here. So right now I have it off, which is why I was able to uh, move through that. But if I turn it back on, it doesn't matter what material I change it back to because it is recognizing that I have material applied to that and I want it visible. Okay, so some problems that I see is that people will forget about things like mRGB, and so they'll start painting in here with that on but have a different material active, and I'll show you what happens and then we'll jump into a little painting demo. Anytime you're just painting, you want to make sure that your Z add and Z sub are turned off, because if you don't, it's going to give you depth data, so it's going to be sculpting and painting at the same time. And in some situations you may want that, but in this situation we don't. So it's just something to be aware of. Okay, so what I've got is I've got the mRGB turned on, and let me go ahead and grab something pretty extreme like this chrome, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab another color, something a little darker, and we're just going to paint. Okay, and you'll see as I'm painting across this, right, it's changing the material, right? It's giving color data, but then it's also changing. But if I were just to use RGB, all we're going to get is color material. Okay, color material. All we're going to get is color. All right, so that's something to be aware of because what I see a lot is people will start painting, or they'll forget about things and then run into trouble, and it'll stop you. It stumps your work process. Another thing to be aware of is that if you have, grab a mask lasso, if you have an area of the model masked off, right? And you go through and you say, I'm going to change this material to a chrome color, fill object. Well, the other piece isn't going to get changed, right? And so just be mindful of that while you're going through here, okay? Let me go ahead and head back over to my skin shade. And one other thing to note is something else that happens a lot, and I've been doing it this whole time, is that whenever you have a texture that's active, it doesn't matter what color that you grab, it's going to be pulling that texture information. So if I were to say, let me switch over to freehand. Let's zoom in on an area here real quick. Basically, it's going to be painting that texture. So if I just, it's basically going to be painting that image over and over again, which is why if I were to grab, say, that, you know, it looks like hell right now because of the density of my model. So that's another thing to be aware of, which is great if you have a color that you want to grab. But if you just want to do strictly painting, you may want to turn it off. So, all right, that's the last little warning I have for the moment. So let's get going on the rest of this, and let's fill this entire thing. Okay. All right. So poly painting. So it is called poly painting, which would make you think that you're painting the polygon, but let's make sure all those are off. Okay. I make a habit of double checking frequently with this because I've run into this problem so many times. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to drop down in subdivision level so we can illustrate this point a little bit easier, right? Let me jump up one more. Okay, so it's called poly painting, but really what we're doing is we're painting vertices, right? And let me grab a color and I'll illustrate this point really quickly. So if I start painting on the vertice, turn off lazy mouse, you'll see that that one vert is going to get painted, but it doesn't paint the face. So if you have a quad, then obviously you have four vertices, right? So in order for that quad to be completely filled, you have to paint the entire vertice, or all four vertices. If it's tries, then go figure. You got three that you got to paint. Okay, so what this tells us is that we are not painting the polygons, because if we were painting the polygons, then we could easily get away with just painting across this, and it shouldn't really matter. But that's not how this works. Okay, yeah, you can come through and you could fill object, right? And that'll give us a pretty flat color, but you're not going to get any detail, right? So in order for this model to hold the color that we need, we're going to have to go up in subdivision levels, right? Because we need more real estate to play with. We need something that can hold the RGB data, right? Okay, so let's get back to a blank canvas, color fill, and let's jump back up into subdivision levels. Let me see where I'm at. 65,000. All right, I'm gonna bump it up 2 more times. Be mindful that every time that you subdivide, it is multiplying by 4. So now I'm up to 1,000,000. Okay, but I'm doing this because I want to have something that can have some real that I can really play with. All right. So it doesn't really matter so much which brush that you use. Generally, whenever I'm painting, I usually stick with the standard brush. Okay, but what I will do is I'll usually stick with a spray or color spray. All right. They both seem to behave pretty much the same way. Um, let's go ahead and do some brief painting, and I'll show you some things that I notice whenever I'm playing around here. So whenever I'm just using the color spray, right, it behaves just kind of like a blotchy brush, right? Something that you might notice, it doesn't show up too bad, but there is a color variation whenever you're spraying across here. So if you want to change that, what you can do is you can affect this slider here, and it will drop any sort of variation that there could be, right? So let me actually increase this so we can see it. Obviously, it's not going to do that. It's because it knows I'm talking about it. Actually, the real reason that that's happening is because we've still got our texture turned on, right? So it's just painting that texture over and over again. So be mindful of those things because you will run into those problems. So let's go ahead and let's select this color. You do so by hitting C on the keyboard, and let's have another look at our color spray here. Let's bump up that color variation. So you see how it's just cycling through colors whenever you're painting across. That's what I mean by this color variation. Which that's kind of cool. If you're trying to build up some you know psychedelic colors, that's a good way to go. Um, but generally, I don't like doing that. I like to have a little bit more control. Um, so I'll either drop this down significantly, or I'll cut it out altogether, and that's generally what I will do. Okay, so let me grab this white again. Fill object. So let's see. So you got that, and then you also have your placement. Okay, so we're just gonna go to the extremes, right? You adjust the placement. You start painting. It's gonna be pretty straight on. It's just like drawing in Photoshop, right? See, but if we go all the way in the opposite direction, then you can see it gets real blotchy, spreads out, almost like an airbrush, right? And then you can control the flow, right? So let's drop this all the way down, and it's just not a whole lot. But then if we drop it and bring it all the way up, then you'll see that it just annihilates anything that has no color. All right. So that's the very basics of just the parameters of the brush. I wanted to show that to you because a lot of people don't really know about these things, right? They get in there and they start painting and you know don't really go anywhere else. So I try to give you as much information as I possibly can. Let me go ahead. I'm going to set these back to let's go like that. All right. So the way I like to operate sometimes, especially a lot of the times, I don't ever want to just operate with just the basic color spray. I want to use some other stuff. I want to use alphas. I want to use something that can break up the surface, not only with sculpture but also with color. You can get a long way with just color. You'd be surprised. And so what we can do is we can come through and we can grab, say, a darker color, right? We can come through and let's say I don't want it to be so crazy intense, right? You know, you can adjust the focal shift on this so that it really goes to town, right? And this is also going to be based on the scale, right? There are various things that you can do whenever you're playing with brushes inside of here, right? So let me grab this color again and go ahead and fill this out again. And so what I would like to do is, if I'm doing something like this, it's kind of I guess a rose petal. Um, what I want to do is rose petals have like these veins that run down the petal, right? And I want to get those, but I don't want to have to worry so much about my color intensity and things like that. So rather than try to sit there and guess at which way I should go on the RGB intensity up here, what I'll just do is I'll go ahead and make me a layer, right? And so I'll hit this plus sign, say new layer, right? And record must be on for anything to be recorded, right? And so what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and just let's grab a darker color, right? And let me see here. I'm just gonna go with the freehand, and then I'm also going to let's turn on our lazy mouse. Set the lazy radius up a little bit. Let's turn the lazy step to 1, and let's see how that fares for us. Okay, I'm gonna turn this up pretty significantly because the reason that I want to do this is that rather I want to have the maximum amount of intensity, and then I can just control the opacity through the layer visibility. So let's drop this radius and drop the step. There we go. Right. Now this isn't pinpoint accurate. I obviously should be looking at reference whenever I'm doing this, but it is getting me what I want, exactly how I want it, so to speak. So I think this is good. You know, not perfect, but it'll work, right? And so whenever I'm done, all I got to do is head back over to my layers, and then this basically affects how much influence the layer has on the rest of the model. So what I can do is I can just affect the slider and find what blends best for me, right? So if I bring it all the way up, it's going to be at max. If I bring it down, it'll have less of an effect. So what I want to do is, because I know that I'm probably going to go through and give this a color wash, I'm probably going to just leave it right about there. And then when you're done, you always want to make sure that you bake your layers, regardless of whether you are, using sculpture on your layers or just paint data or whatnot. You need to make sure that you bake your layers, otherwise it's just not going to set, and all that work would be for nothing, right? So the last little thing I want to do, I'll hop back over here. Let me grab this alpha. That's interesting. I like just finding variations where I can bring down my RGB intensity, and let me go ahead and turn off lazy mouse altogether. Then we'll just do some paint on here. So my voice kind of goes all Bob Ross. Okay, so I've got this, and you know what you can do. I don't really think it's necessary right now, but what I could do is I could try blending these a little bit. And so if you're trying to blend color, what you do is you just hold your smooth, hold shift for smooth. Just make sure that RGB is active only on it, and then you can adjust the intensity. And so I don't want it to annihilate everything that I've got going on here, but I do want to, you know, try to affect it a little bit. You know, and let me bring it up so you can see how it really works. You know, you'll see that it'll really cut through that color, right? But I don't really want that. I kind of want that choppiness, that texture via color, right? And so that's we'll do that, and then we will find one other color. So, like I said earlier, if you're trying to select a color, if you hold C on the keyboard, you can grab any color anywhere in the entire document, right? And so I want to grab something similar to the color that we already have, or the main color, so it complements, right? So I want to grab that, and then just use something in the general vicinity. Uh, I want to warm it up a little bit. There we go. So do that, and then I'll just hit the color fill a few times. Doled it out too much. That's why we can always Control Z. Okay, so we have that. All right, said done. We got a flower petal. It'll pass. And then let's see. You say, okay, well, that's cool. But what if you're in a time crunch, right? And you really have to get something done. You just have to. Your art director has approached you and said, if you do not get this flower petal done in the next 5 minutes, I am going to stab you through the heart with your Wacom tablet. Well, then you might want to take him seriously. Maybe buy him a beer, and then maybe try using the following technique. So what we'll do is we will fill this with our white, and then let's head over to our texture palette right here, right? And so I have that texture that image that I had earlier. So what I want to do is make sure that it's active, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to add it to Spotlight. Okay, and then whenever you hit Spotlight, it's also going to bring up Lightbox because it's so nice. And then what I want to do is Spotlight has this little gizmo here, and you can rotate the image, you can scale the image, you can control opacity, the hue, saturation. You can do all manner of things, but all I really want to do is paint. So whenever you've got it lined up, and you want to let's scale it down a little bit. Just kind of want to work it into place so that it somewhat fits this form, right? Because it's got to sit over the entire model, right? All right, that works. So whenever you got it in place, all you're gonna have to do is let me turn off this alpha. You're gonna have to hit Shift and Z on the keyboard, or not. You do that after the fact. So what you do is you just go through, paint it up, and then hit Shift Z on the keyboard, get rid of it. And if you hit Shift Z again, because I missed a spot right there, turn it back off, and voila, you've got an image painted right onto your flower petal, and you've thus made your art director very happy because he just really wanted that flower petal done, and you have not been stabbed in the heart by his Wacom tablet. Because that's a very bad thing. Uh, and you're probably going, well, why didn't you just show me this in the beginning? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to help you to think critically whenever you're inside of ZBrush, and I want to make sure that you are able to navigate through any sort of problems that you run into. So if I just shown this to you at the very beginning, well, I don't think I would have done you much of a service. All right, so If you are new, please subscribe. I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope that everyone's week is going well. Definitely follow up on the Facebook group over at Z Fever. Definitely also check out Ryan Kingsland's Kickstarter for You Artsy. They need all the support that they can get, and I definitely want to see You Artsy, be successful with what is trying to be done here, because they can get the funding that they need. It's going to make your lives as artists and all artists to follow. It's just going to make things a lot better for everybody. Okay, so check them out and have a great week, guys. Thanks for watching. Happy ZBrushing. Take care.